We have our very first big report this morning here on Breakfast Extra. You're welcome. Today's big report kicks off with a deep dive into a very worrying truth. It's the cost of politics in Nigeria. It's skyrocketing and it's pushing away everyone without deep pockets, whether you like it or not. Recent data out of Westminster Foundation for Democracy shows the price tag of political ambitions is astounding. A nomination form for the House of Representatives can set you back at least 2.2 million naira, 2.4 million naira, while reports confirm total campaign expenditures as high as 200 million naira for just one federal seat, far exceeding legal limits. Party godfathers, vote buying, and inflated logistics, all of those costs you also have to factor in. Often funding thugs or, paid delegates. This dominates the landscape. A House seat might cost a candidate up to 500 million naira at the end of the day, while legal battles post-election can easily stretch you $1 billion. So you can see we're talking Rolls-Royce money here. Now, these staggering sums shut out young people, and that's the problem. It also shuts out women and persons with disabilities, often priced out because even setting foot in the race, you have to be loaded. Now, we're going to have Adebowale Olorunmola, country representative of WFD. He wants Nigeria, many Nigerians willing to serve are under or unable to access the political scape due to the high cost. Let's take a look at News Central's report put together by Joshua Imarayi regarding this issue, and we'll be back to start that conversation.
Over the years, the cost of politicking in Nigeria has soared, and with each election cycle, the stakes get even higher. Experts say the growing financial demands and exclusivity in Nigeria's political space have led to the continued marginalization of key demographics, including women, youth, and persons with disabilities.
And if you agree with me that the health of democracy is majorly indicated by the percentage of people participating in the process, then we have a reason to be concerned. Specifically, if you look at the nosediving representation of women in political institutions, particularly the Assembly, National Assembly, State Assembly, it is a major concern.
A recent study by the Westminster Foundation for Democracy on the cost of politics in Nigeria emphasizes the urgent need for government and political parties to adopt innovative strategies to dismantle these financial hurdles.
That's why we're asking that even in the Electoral Act, even in the party's constitution, we have the 35%, but when you talk of the gender bill, it's not being passed. And so it's neutral, because they're not telling us specifically this is what we are giving to the women. So that's why we are saying, as we have these conversations, as we go around amending the constitution, the party's constitution, we want to even start from the parties.
Some politicians, however, argue that political parties are also victims of a flawed system and are often forced to seek unconventional and sometimes questionable means of sustaining their operations.
The political parties themselves are victims of the problems we have. There is no equity in the system. So because constitutionally parties are not the funds or subvention for political parties have been withdrawn. So somehow you have to fight to survive, for your parties to move on, to be part of the system.
Let us jettison the issue of monetization of nomination funds. To do that successfully, because most political parties use that to generate revenue to run the party. And so if we must do that, there must be an alternative means of generating revenue to run the party. If you don't have money, you cannot run a political party anywhere.
As Nigeria approaches future elections, the big question remains, can reforms lower the cost of participation and open the space for broader, more genuine representation? Only time and bold policy decisions will tell. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Many thanks to Joshua Imarayi there for that report. I mean, summing up the report, it's very clear that politics in Nigeria isn't a competition. It's an exclusive club for the wealthy. Voters dismissed impending entry, razor-thin accountability as well. And now, joining us to sort of unpack this are, first, we're having Adebowale Olorunmola. He joins us from WFD. And also joining us, our very own Joshua Imarayi, who put together the report. Gentlemen, many thanks. We appreciate you for coming on. First of all, Joshua, many thanks for that report. But let me start with Adebowale. Adebowale, how did the cost structure of political campaigns evolve so steeply since 2015?
Thank you so much, Judith and Mazimo, for having me. Let us start between 2017, when the Westminster Foundation for Democracy conducted the first cost of politics study. And we found out that expenses that politicians spend to get into office is like breaking the bank to be able to contest election. Right from the time that you express interest to contest election, to the time you actually go to campaign, to the time you now complete your campaign, you are elected if you win. And even when you are in office, the cost still continue. And I must say that as at that time, 2017, a House of Representative respondent indicated that he kept spending. He spent up to 200 million naira. And at that point, he stopped calculating because he will be discouraged if he continued to calculate how much he was spending. So it was spending to win. The question that we should ask ourselves is, how many individuals can afford, with capacity, with credibility, can afford to spend 200 million naira as at 2017 to win election for which the cap was not even up to the 70 million that we have in the Electoral Act today. The Electoral Act today has 70 million as the cap for House of Representatives. And it will interest you to know that in the 2023 general election, another respondent indicated that he spent over 500 million naira and still did not win the election. So it has gone so bad that people spend their life saving, people sell their investments, to be able to contest and win election. And elections are being won by the highest spenders. Yes, money is important in elections, but when you spend beyond what is expected, beyond the legal limit, then it brings to question to what end? Why are you spending? Is it to serve, or is it to invest to be able to recoup with profit, with interest? So it has gone so steep, it has gone so bad that it is now eliminating credible individuals, youth, women, and persons with disability who may not first have the deep pocket to be able to spend so much, or may not have the godfather that could afford to spend so much for them to contest election.
Well, let me also come to you. As we're looking at this amount that we're seeing, you would think that such an amount would deter people from going into politics, but it also means that they have to go through sometimes nefarious or go have what's the term now? Unlikely bedfellows. So what are we seeing in terms of patterns and people who participate in politics to meet this high demand or this steep prices? What do they have to do? What are they doing to get into politics?
Okay, so why would people get to contest an election when they will have to spend so much money? If I got you right, I think it is because of the perception that once you are in power in Nigeria, once you contest election and you win election, you are as good as made. You have access to the Commonwealth. And we have seen it validated by individuals who get into politics and become stinkingly, rich. And of course, by the perks of office, depending on whether you are the president or the governor and what the State House of Assembly has passed, that is going to be your retirement benefit, at the end of 8 years of of service. So it is the enticement of the office that comes with, huge, access to public funds. That makes people to dig deep into their savings, to sell their properties, and that is talking about what they do, to fund, their elections. I mean, there's been reports of people selling their properties, selling their stocks, getting loans or getting the support of godfathers. In the report, if you go through the report, there was a former speaker who sold his hotel for about 500 million naira and still lost the election. And of course, we are all watching the drama of a godfather who bought the ticket for all contestants in his party in the state. To what end? For him to be able to be in charge of the party structure, to control, the decisions at the state level. So it is about investment. It is about continuous cashing in, on the access to the Commonwealth that is available.
The access to the Commonwealth that's available.
Detriment of the state.
Right. Let me come to you. Yeah. Let me come to you, Joshua.
Just a second, Judith. I'd like to ask Joshua a very interesting question here.
Go ahead.
Joshua, now you put together this report, and from everything that we have seen from the report that you gathered, we note that there is a certain clamor for these offices by people who are themselves already high up there when it comes to the structure of Nigerian economics. These are people who can afford this very high cost of going into politics. And I'm wondering how you can balance this sort of life with the grassroots, the people who are actually at the bottom, who actually can feel what the economy is doing to the average Nigerian. The high cost of fuel, high cost of electricity, transportation, food, they're the ones it's pinching the most. But it will seem like they have no representation, real representation, from people who actually feel what they feel. So while you were gathering this report, how did you balance this out? Seeing the rich and famous go into power, yet the people who actually need representation don't get the individuals who can represent them because they can't afford these high costs of politicking in Nigeria. How did you feel? How did you balance this out in your report?
Well, one thing that we must understand is that some Nigerians, particularly those at the bottom of the ladder, have settled their scores on their mind that they won't get to this position because it is the highest bidder wins it all. So one thing that most of them think in the course of politicking and governance is that these particular offices are reserved for some selected few. And this selected few are those who have the means to get to that point. And the people who are at the bottom of the ladder, they have reserved their own responsibility and roles to say that whenever they need crumbs or maybe mega amounts to satisfy immediate needs, these are the people they run to. So this has always been the equilibrium. The people at the top always give crumbs to those at the bottom. And those at the bottom always believe that those at the top, that whatever they give them is their own benefit of democracy. This has been the case over time. In Nigeria, many Nigerians feel that they are not qualified for this position, not because they don't have the capacity, but because they don't have the financial means. And those who are at the top, who have the financial means, believe that my money can control everything. So this is the mindset. And the entire balance in the entire thing is that those at the bottom always rely on those at the top for house rent, maybe burial ceremony funding, marriage ceremony funding, and the likes of them all.
Now, Mr. Adebowale, you spoke in your entry there about a legal limit for contesting. And I'm really wondering whether these legal limits are adhered to when it comes to politicking in Nigeria. Because we've just noted, and you did in your report as well, told about the very high cost, up to 500 million. And let's not even start talking about after election expenses when it comes to the courts. So are these limits being adhered to by these political bodies or individuals who are going in for office, Mr. Adebowale?
So that is part of the problem that is leading to the steep slide, into the dungeon of the high cost of politics in Nigeria, which is harming our democracy. The fact that we have laws and the laws are not implemented and enforced has continuously set the precedence that you can overspend, beyond the legal limit and get away with it. There is no consequences. And where there is no consequences, people do whatever they want and they get away with it. And the culture of overspending is continuously built.
Mr. Adebowale, what are these legal limits? What do we have a number for how much a campaigner or an individual can expend when it comes to politics? Could we know?
Absolutely. If you check the Electoral Act, it is clearly stated that for the president, a candidate is not expected to spend more than 5 billion naira. For the governorship, you're not expected to spend more than 1 billion. For the Senate, you're expected to spend about 100 million, and for the House of Rep, you're expected to spend about 70 million. And it continued downward to the level of the local government chair and the councillor, where you cannot spend more than 30 million. But I told you in my opening that we had a speaker who sold his hotel for 500 million naira, expended virtually everything in contesting to come back, but lost the election. There was another fellow who confessed to have spent more than 500 million and he didn't return. And you see, it is not about even 500 million. When it gets to post-election litigation, to pay lawyers, sometimes you put together huge numbers of senior advocates of Nigeria to make your case at the level of litigation, and you find people spending like $1 billion to put a team, of SANs together. I mean, that has already gone beyond, the legal limit, depending on what office you are looking at. If you look at the Edo and Ondo State off-cycle election, from the report that was released by a civil society organization, Park Development Foundation, all of the contestants, particularly for the PDP, the APC, and the Labour Party in Edo State, went above the 1 billion benchmark for governorship candidates. And did we see any form of prosecution? There was no prosecution. The report provided evidence that they spent beyond the legal limit. The same thing in Ondo State. The spending in Ondo State was not as huge as that of Edo State, but they also went above the legal limit. But was there a prosecution? There was no prosecution. So what we are saying, in essence, is that the law does not matter. We are not testing the law. We are not putting the law into force. And that is why we keep having that non-enforcement driving the cost of politics, to a level that is beyond the capacity of some of the individuals who are capable, who are competent, who have credibility. It is not about even what you spend to win. It is about what you are bringing into the office. We are complaining about the fact that we don't have the level of development that we're looking forward to in the country. Institutions are not performing their responsibility. It is basically because the people that we are getting to elect are not people who are keen, to engage the office they are competing for and deliver the dividend of democracy. We are people who have been tried and tested, but who do not have the pulse to be able to contest. And why would they even spend so much if they are going to be serving? If it is for service, why would they break the bank to have access to political office? So we need to keep asking ourselves that question. And as a serious nation, begin the process of stemming the huge expenses that politicians undertake to get into office. By the time they get into office, the moral right to call them to accountability is lost.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And because they are not responsible to the people, they are more responsible to those that funded, their election.
All right. So just to wrap up, right, because we're out of time, I have to ask, I wonder how vote buying factors into all of this, and what's the way forward?
All right, so somebody said, and I quite agree with the fellow, that politicians are resorting to vote buying because votes have started counting. The vote of the people have started counting. We now have a process put together by the Election Management Body of Nigeria, INEC, that makes it very difficult for fraud to be committed. So the best way out is for you to buy votes. So I think the result, politicians are always looking for loopholes in the system. Now that the system is becoming more and more foolproof, the best you can do is to buy vote. And therefore, vote buying has become one of the biggest part of the election cycle expenses that candidates who wants to win election, have to undertake. And when you look at how much is involved per ward level, sometimes politicians budget between 200,000 and 300,000 per ward. And in the local government, you can have between 10 and 15 wards, and in the state, you can have I think the minimum state that the state with the minimal number of local government is Bayelsa, which has about 8. Now you times that by 8 or by 10 or by 44 in Kano. It's already coming together as a huge amount of money that you have to use to win election. And somebody also said that even if you have to rig election, you also need money. If you look at the report, you will see that properly explained. So it is not only to win election. If you want to rig also, you have to use money. And we've had over and over politicians telling the other ones to go to the courts because they are ready to spend money in the courts. So it is about money and who can outspend the other. If I cannot outspend you in campaign, I will outspend you during election day by buying votes. If I cannot outspend you then, I will outspend you in the courts. And we've seen somebody who came fourth during the election. Imagine being pronounced as winner by the courts.
Mr. Adebowale,
so it is a huge problem that we need to address as an issue.
Yes, indeed. These are very worrying figures, very worrying instances that you are relating here from your report. And, well, we will continue to look at these instances and see perhaps maybe things change. Imarayi, you're very important to this as well. Sorry, but we have actually been enjoying the details that Mr. Adebowale has been giving on this topic. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I wanted to ask you certain questions regarding the lifestyle of these political officers, as we saw inside of your report. But not to worry, I'm sure we'll catch you on another one. Joseph Imarayi and Mr. Adebowale Olorunmola, thank you very much for being our first guests on the Sunday edition for Breakfast Extra.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having me.
A pleasure.